Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the first official episode of TGC Radio. Last week, I did the pilot, which was set up in a different way than how I envisioned the series going from week to week, but that's why it's a pilot, after all. But for the first official episode, we've got quite a few things on the docket. We've got Spotify Wrapped, which I will be comparing to Last FM, since that's where I got all of the stats in the first video, the pilot. And we'll also go through what Last FM says was my most listened to everything during the whole month of November, and from the week we left off at the end of the pilot episode. So with that being said, let's get into it. So first things first, let's go ahead and just start with Spotify Wrapped. Spotify Wrapped said, I only listen to 18 genres, which I don't know how accurate that is, but I mean, in general, I do listen to the same type of things. It's pretty much a lot of like punk, pop punk, emo, stuff like that. So it's probably fairly accurate, but I mean, I've also, again, I don't know, I've listened to a lot of stuff throughout the year. So, like I said, I don't know how accurate that is, but that's neither here nor there. Like, I don't really care too much. I mean, I'd like it to be higher, because, well, yeah, that just makes sense. But that's where Spotify Wrapped started off, and then it went into making a sandwich of genres, showing my top 5 most listened to genres throughout the year, apparently. And this is, and right away when I first looked at the Spotify Wrapped, this is where I first got, is this accurate? I don't know. Because pop punk, just rock in general, okay, both those make sense, obviously. All the way at the bottom, I see pop. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. Viral pop, I don't understand exactly what that means. Like, is viral pop just, like, really popular pop music? Like, stuff that's gone viral? Like, I've never heard that used as a genre name before, so I don't know exactly what it means. But regardless, pop punk, rock, pop, I do understand those a lot, and then viral pop, I don't fully even know what it means as a genre. Again, I know a lot of different genres, I've never heard of that one. But then right in the middle, post-grunge, and I don't know why this is here. I don't listen to post-grunge. Most post-grunge, I think, is pretty damn bad. So the only thing I can think of that would have put it here would have been if 3 Days Grace is still labeled post-grunge throughout everything they've released, but one, I think that would be completely inaccurate, and two, the only post-grunge thing they really released as a band was the first record, and even then you could probably argue that's not really post-grunge. But that's a conversation for a different time, I'm not going to get into that. But yeah, no, the first two obviously make sense, and all at the bottom, pop makes sense as well. And I'm assuming viral pop is just like pop music that's, you know, really popular. It's got viral on the internet, you know. So even to that extent as well, I do understand with me listening to a lot of like Echo Smith, with especially their first record. Cool Kids was in there as well. The fact that, well, I was going to say Taylor Swift, but I've only listened to one track from Taylor throughout the year, and I only listened to that one track twice. And it was it was the song from one of the Taylor's version albums that she did with Fall Out Boy. And that's it was the song Electric Touch. So that was like the only reason I listened to it, because like it featured Fall Out Boy. So, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I'm rambling at this point. But yeah, so that was the first thing that came up here, was the genre stuff. For the most part, it makes sense, but post-grunge really makes me scratch my head, because I haven't listened to post-grunge, like, at all throughout the year. And then it was this year, your listening took you places, and one place listened just like you, and I got Pittsburgh, which apparently a lot of people have got Pittsburgh. I don't understand. And it says, people there are far more likely to be fans of Spanish love songs. We Are the In Crowd and All Time Low. And I guess We Are the In Crowd and All Time Low makes sense, because We Are the In Crowd are from Poughkeepsie, New York, and All Time Low from Baltimore. Neither are too far away from Pittsburgh. And Spanish Love Songs, I don't know how there's a connection there. I think it could be completely random, quite honestly. But yeah, I got, my listening was like Pittsburgh, so. Even though, by the way, one of those bands, being All Time Low, wasn't in my top 5, according to Spotify. Actually, both sites, not in my top 5. And, mind you, and the other two weren't even my top 2. They were 3 and 4, so whatever. Yeah, that's a funny one. And after declaring my music taste is a lot like Pittsburgh, it was, you played a total of 1,139 different songs in 2023. And then, of course, there was one that really connected, which I'll get to in a minute. That 1,139 songs in 2023, according to Spotify, this is the first one where I can look up for Last FM. Now, I can only do, like, I can't do it fully, for what, because Spotify Wrapped normally takes from, like, they normally cut it off sometime in October, so then you're pretty much getting all of November and December tacked on to January through October of the year they're counting. So it'd be, so 2023 would have been January through October 2023, and then November, December of 2022. It's something like that. They normally cut it off in October. And because I don't know exactly the cutoff, and I didn't sign up to Last FM until the end of December 2022, my stats are off according to them, but according to Last FM, it was 1,061. But again, it naturally would be lower, just because, again, I don't know the exact cutoff for Spotify Wrapped, and I didn't sign up to Last FM until the end of December last year. So, yeah. But we can kind of judge it from Last FM's year-end thing, too, once that comes out. But that one song that really connected, of course, is Kick by Spanish Love Songs, and I listened to it 69 total times throughout the year, according to Spotify. And in what is my closest approximation for the time frame with Last FM, it would be 68. So that's not too different, obviously, like just one play difference. My top songs, top 5 according to Spotify, and this is where we really get contentious between the two sites. Spotify says my top 5 was Kick by Spanish Love Songs, Strangers Again by Against the Current, Safest Place by Echo Smith, Let's Love by Echo Smith, and then This River is Wild by The Killers. And now the first 4 are all the same, according to Last FM: Kick, Strangers Again, Safest Place, Let's Love. But Last FM says I have Talking Dreams by Echo Smith in my top 5 as well, so 3 Echo Smith songs from that first record. And again, closest approximation with the time frame, the play difference, the Scrabble difference between Talking Dreams and This River is Wild on Last FM is 4 plays. So I don't know where Spotify got This River is Wild, because Last FM, technically speaking, should be more accurate, especially since I wasn't using Spotify in October of 2022, and I barely would have used it in November either, because I didn't really start using Spotify again, like, a lot until after Spotify Wrapped 2022. So that's kind of the real first point of contention there, aside from the post-grunge genre thing, which I still don't get, is This River's Wild realistically shouldn't be my 5th top song. Even as much as I love the song and I have played it a lot, statistically, Talking Dreams probably, should be that 5th song. But hey, that is the difference there. But time is a contract, but we kept track anyway, and it said I listened to 22,418 minutes, which is 15 days non-stop, and according to, or this is one where, because Last FM doesn't operate on minutes like that, from what I can tell, so Spotify says 22,418 minutes, but I also have an app on my phone called Stats FM, which is basically like Last FM, but you can directly link your Spotify and then import your entire Spotify listening history into it. So then doing that and then looking at what would have been counted for 2022 and 2023. Again, just like Last FM, the closest approximation I have date-wise for Stats FM in this case would actually put me at 24,007 minutes compared to 22,418, which again is a big jump. But again, it's gonna be different though, just because, like I said so many times already, I don't know the exact cutoff for Spotify Wrapped every year, so it's the closest approximation. There's gonna be differences. And they said I peaked on October 26th with 245 minutes in the one day, which seems low, especially around that time, because to be honest, as we've gotten later in the year, I've been listening less. I don't even know why, I've just been listening less, so they said my peak was October 26th, when I would probably argue it would more than likely be in either April or January, when I started my year-long project, which you'll hear more about later, where I want to listen to a bunch of albums. Because I started that in January, and I was really, really fired up to go through that all the way from January till even past April a little bit as well, before I kind of burned myself out. So a date in one of those 2 months, January or April specifically, should probably be my peak. So I disagree with Spotify here, but again, I don't know exactly how they found the information out. But it did say I was in the top 17% of listeners worldwide, and it said I listened to 266 different artists. Spotify says 266, and Last.fm says 187, and my top artist, no matter what, between both was Against the Current. But yeah, so Against the Current was my top artist, and it's not contentious actually. This one's gonna be lower on Last.fm's side, because the way pretty much any streaming service works, pretty much anything that is listed as a different artist will get counted as a different artist, even if it's the same band and like there's a feature listed in the artist instead of like it's this song featuring said band or whoever, you know. So Spotify will list that separately, but Last.fm, I can edit all of that and just keep it all lumped together with how I feel like it should be categorized. Not contentious at all on that one. Last.fm is just intentionally going to be lower because of the way I categorize things when I edited information on there. And it said, of course, Against the Current top artists, like I said, both is the same there. It said I spent 2,025 minutes together with them. And according to Stats FM, I didn't do the time frame for this one, I just looked it up right now. It says I have 2,250 minutes compared to 2,025. So, but I mean, I have listened to, or I finally gone back and re-listened to their entire first record, In Our Bones. So that would add time to it that I know wouldn't have been counted for Spotify Wrapped. And then they gave me like a little card to flip over at the end, and that apparently called me an alchemist, as listening is your laboratory. You create your own playlists more than other listeners do. Nice work, Doc. And at first I was a little surprised by that because I don't really make playlists all that often, but I was thinking, you know what, for the sake of it, if I look at all my playlists that I have made, I started using Spotify as my main music platform again for the first time in a long time. And I ended up making 12 playlists that I added music to. Between Last.fm and Spotify, the two big things I was comparing, the only things really that's in contention is, again, I don't think post-grunge should be up there for my third most listened to genre, because I don't listen to post-grunge. And This River is Wild arguably shouldn't be listed as my fifth most played song when it's not. There's a multiple play difference between that and Talking Dreams. So, but yeah, no, overall it's fairly accurate, with the only differences being things that make sense to be different, just because, again, it's either I signed up to Last.fm at the end of the month, so that's going to be different anyway, or it's going to be, I don't know the exact date that Spotify stops considering for Wrapped. But with all of that, that's Spotify Wrapped compared to Last FM, and we can check back in again with the episode of TGC Radio at the probably, I think it's start of next year, 2024, where I'll look at the year-end review or whatever they call it on Last FM. But I know that has to be like at the start of the next year. Let's kick into looking at Last FM with my most listened to stuff throughout November. November 2023, they said my most listened to artists, the top 5 for that would be Blink-182, All Time Low, Against the Current, Spanish Love Songs, and Saint Asonia. Most listened to albums top 5, Blink-182's California, Blink-182's One More Time, Against the Current's In Our Bones, Blink-182's 9, and Saint Asonia's Flawed Design. And in the top 5 tracks, we have Alex Mountain's Autumnal, Against the Current's Running with the Wild Things, Echo Smith's Tell Her You Love Her, Mayday Parade's Jamie All Over, and Saint Asonia's Flawed Design. I did write down some of the stats to get a better look instead of just what they showed me on the report section. So for the month of November, artists in general, and I have all of this lined up for my stats as a top 6 just because that's my thing. Way back in 2016, I started making the occasional list video where I did top 6 because I didn't want to do top 5 or top 10 because everyone does those. And then some other numbers that I thought about doing were already taken. So top 6 is my thing. And 6 is like my lucky number too. Month of November, my top 6 artists, but my number 1 was Blink-182, 2 was All Time Low, 3 was Against the Current, 4 was Spanish Love Songs, 5 was Saint Asonia. At number 6, we have 2 tied for that spot, and that's Boxcar Racer and the band Honey Revenge, which is a band who recently was just my sister turned me on to. Honey Revenge is generally a good modern pop punk band. So yeah, and I sat down and listened to their entire record that came out this year recently, and yeah, the whole thing's good. Then albums, there's actually a lot more. So tied for number 1, we have California and One More Time by Blink-182. So then at number 3, we have 2 tied, and that's In Our Bones by Against the Current and 9 by Blink-182. I went on a big Blink kick recently, shortly after One More Time dropped, listening to both of the Matt Skiba era records. Again, I said it in the previous one, I think both are good. So then at number 5, we have Flawed Design by Saint Asonia. Number 6, we have 2 tied again, and it's Boxcar Racer by Boxcar Racer, and then Retrovision by Honey Revenge. I just talked about it. If you like modern pop punk, check that out. I think the whole thing's very good. So then at number 8, we have Don't Panic by All Time Low. And then at number 9, we have 2 tied, and that's No Joy by Spanish Love Songs, and the self-titled Kiss record by, of course, Kiss. I said that already. And that one, compared to everything else, you may be wondering, why the fuck did you listen to the very first Kiss record? And I'm like, I have an explanation for that one. So growing up, actually I think he still is, my dad is obsessed with Kiss. So growing up, he had a lot of like merch and memorabilia, had like all their stuff on vinyl. So a lot of Kiss was played at the time, and like I've never really gone out of my way to listen to the band, but I've heard a lot of them because of him, and I just started wondering, because like I know Kiss didn't really get popular for the most part until they put out Kiss Alive, their first live record, and I was like, you know, it's been probably like 15 years since I heard like a full Kiss album in full, right? Probably something around that. So well more than a decade, and I was thinking, what if I just went back to that first record just to see how do I feel about it now that I know my own music tastes? And quite honestly, I'll talk about it more in, again, the year-long project video. Honestly, I don't hate it. Like, it's not a bad record, but it's not a good record either. It's incredibly flawed. I think the songs that are led by Paul are fun songs that are fun to sing along to, but lyrically, they're not good at all. And I think the songs written by Gene are better lyrically, but then they don't flow quite as well. And again, the entire thing's an entirely flawed record, and I wouldn't ever go back to it. In fact, I mean, I wouldn't go back to Kiss at all. This was just this one thing. It's like, oh, hey, it's been so long. How do I feel about the record they first put out, you know, all these years later? Also, Black Diamond, I think, is a fine way to close out the record, but it's also a minute too long. It's 5 minutes when it could have been 4. But yeah, so that's the explanation for me listening to that. But also completely understand why that record did not really get them much of an audience. Totally get it. But nonetheless, that was albums. And then songs. Songs is a lot easier to talk about right now, and that's because my number one legitimately was Autumnal by Alex Melton throughout the month, and then there were 6 tied for number 2, and that's Running with the Wild Things, Tell Her You Love Her, Jamie All Over, Flawed Design, Make Damn Sure by Taking Back Sunday, and then the brand new cover by We're the In Crowd, Sick Transit Gloria, Glory Fades. And funny enough, I know the cover a lot, and I know that the cover a lot more, and I love the cover. Funny enough, I listened to the original, just be like, okay, so if I love the cover so much, how do I feel about the original? And like, even though ultimately it's a song about sex, I think the way Jesse wrote the lyrics for the song, honestly, great. Great lyricist. I didn't like listening to it, though. And that's me, like, not even, like, being fully aware of everything controversy with Brand New, to be completely honest. I was never into Brand New. Like, the people who helped shape my music taste very early on weren't into Brand New. Like, everyone I knew was, like, Team Taking Back Sunday, if you will. But no, Sick Transit Glory, I think, is a good song, but I much prefer the cover. But I do think, even despite everything, I do think Jesse Lacey is a very good lyricist. I'll say that. But anyway, that was the month of November, and then we can get into what is going to be normally the meat of TGC Radio, and that is the week-to-week stuff. And that is what I want to talk about more, to be honest. But the week-to-week stuff that we'll be looking at, of course, we finished off with the last day we were talking about being November 23rd. So where we left off was talking about November 17th to November 23rd, and now we're talking about November 24th to November 30th. My top 6 artists were Against the Current, Honey Revenge, All Time Low, Blink-182, Spanish Love Songs, and Kiss does make it in there for the reason I mentioned earlier. My top 6 albums were In Our Bones by Against the Current, Retrovision by Honey Revenge, Kiss by Kiss, California by Blink-182, No Joy by Spanish Love Songs, and To the Stars, Demos, Odds and Ends by Tom DeLonge. Again, I'll talk about it more. Side note, though, that is genuinely a good EP, record, however you want to classify it. I don't know actually what it's classified as, because I think it sits in between an EP and a record, technically, but whatever. It's very good. And then songs, we have Jamie All Over by Mayday Parade was at the top, and then again we had 6 tied for number 2, and that is Forget Me Now by Against the Current, Outsiders by Against the Current, Kill Your Vibe by All Time Low, which of course is from their album that came out 2023, Tell Me I'm Alive, Sing Negative, Disappointment by Honey Revenge from their record this year, My Own Soul's Warning by The Killers, and that's from Imploding the Mirage, and then the cover, Sick Transit Gloria, Glory Fades by We're the In Crowd. And ultimately, that is really all that I've got for you today. To be completely honest, I went through Spotify Wrapped and compared it to Last FM, as best that I could anyway. And we'll look at what Last FM says my year-end stuff is when that comes out. We looked at all my top stats on Last FM for my month of November. And then we did the week-to-week stuff that the show's going to normally be about. I hope you enjoyed the first proper episode of TGC Radio. If you have not already, please check out the pilot episode that's also on the channel, link in the description with the series playlist. And if you enjoyed it, leave a like, comment down below, share it on social media, do all that good stuff, and until next time, I'll see you later. Bye, guys.